Ladies and gentlemen, regardless of whatever sport you follow, there's always an interesting conversation to be had. And that conversation is, who was the best player that never made it to the top? In chess, one of the top candidates for this conversation is Vasil Ivanchuk. And that's only a recent name change. Decade ago, 2 decades ago, he was Vasily Ivanchuk. Vasily. And recently, here in 2025, this man, who is near 60 years of age, played 3 tournaments back to back to back, went undefeated in nearly 30 games, and gained 40 rating points in 1 month, getting him up to top 80 in the world at his age. This man is a legend. He has beaten more world champions than I can name, and I've got multiple videos out about him, and I'm going to show you 3 games that he played on this recent run in this video. Legend is an understatement, all right? Like, really, it doesn't do it any justice to just call Ivanchuk a legend. He has an incredible, uncompromising playing style. He is beloved in the chess world for his chess, and also for some of his interviews. I've covered the video on the channel of his interviews, so just sit back, relax, and let me show you 3 games by this absolute legend of the game who is now back up to top 80 in the world with a couple of very impressive wins against young, hungry international masters, and then capping it off with a grandmaster victory to seal a 3rd tournament win in a row. 30 games, undefeated, monstrous performance. We kick things off in Iceland. So we have Ivanchuk playing against a German international master, and the setting is the Reykjavik Open in Reykjavik, Iceland. And this tournament was from April 9th to 15th. The next one he played was from 16 to 21, and the next one was from 22 to 29. He literally did not take a single break. So we will open up this video with the move c4. This is, of course, the English opening, and the opponent with the black pieces plays knight f6 and then takes the center with e5. Like, if your opponent is going to let you put a pawn in the center of the board like this, it's a good idea to, obviously do it. And now Ivanchuk plays e3. E3 is fine now. Knight first is fine, moving the other knight. He does it on the very next move. And so at this point, black has a decision. Does black play aggressively in the center with d5? Or does black play bishop b4, which is by far the more principled and popular move? In this game, Bennett plays d5. This is a very critical approach already. And after white trades on d5, now there are a lot of possibilities here to put pressure like this, put pressure like this, or play the move that Ivanchuk has played in this game, which it's not a bad move, but it's not a move, that I've really seen much of at all. And, Ivanchuk has a famous video on YouTube. It's like a very famous interview. If you just type in Ivanchuk interview, you'll see it. And then I actually made a video analyzing his interview where he basically just says, my preparation was to play e4 and that's it. And I think in this game, it's kind of the same thing. Ivanchuk is always looking to improvise. He plays queen c2, which is a move. Maybe in the future, the queen is going to put pressure here. You want to fight for the light squares in the center of the board. You also want to get out of any pin. Yeah. Now, if the knight comes in to attack the queen, I think the queen is going to go to b1, and then you're going to play a3. You're kind of playing a Sicilian defense, but with the white pieces. Because normally, black plays the Sicilian and then trades in the center. In this game, we got this. Already, both players are on their own, which Ivanchuk does very often to his opponents. And now white is going to play d4, bishop e2, and castle in some order. Ivanchuk plays bishop e2 first. They both castle, and now white plays the move d4. And what I really loved about this game is how creative it was. So we're going to get 3 different types of Ivanchuk games. The next game is going to be Evisceration. The 3rd game is going to be Imagination. Evisceration, Imagination, Creativity. And this first game was chaos. Like, this was a very, very chaotic game. And this is how Ivanchuk plays chess. In this game, black plays h6. This is just sort of a flexible move, very non-committal move, not trying to stir the pot too much. And obviously also stopping any sort of attacking ideas white might have, like if white goes d5, knight g5. Ivanchuk now plays bishop b2. It is not really a whole lot to this move, except, obviously there are pawns in the way, and white will maybe try to open up those pawns and go here. Now, one thing I would like to just draw your attention to, pay attention to this guy, because this is going to be the most unlikely hero of this entire game. Black plays a5 because he wants to take space on the queen side, and maybe he even wants to get the pawn to the a3 square. Ivanchuk acknowledges this plan and plays rook a to d1, and his idea is that if black ever gets down here, this bishop is literally going to live on a1 and participate in the game from the corner. I mean, it takes a ridiculous amount of gall and creativity, frankly, to do that, like to have the foresight to see that through. Black plays queen e7, which is just a normal move, improving the position. And now Ivanchuk plays knight d2. This is a provocation, right? Leaving the knight, maybe routing it forward, putting the bishop on f3, and obviously now the game is going to get very critical. Black plays a4 here. Two ideas. Stopping the knight from going to b3. Bishop goes to the f3 square. Black also developing a piece, and now Ivanchuk plays knight c4. So Ivanchuk fully implements his plan, right? He reroutes the knight to c4 to put pressure on the bishop, to put pressure on the center. This bishop is looking over here. Let's see how the game progresses. There's a3, there's bishop, back to a1. Now, Stockfish looks at the bishop on a1 and immediately is like, I don't believe that you can get this out long term. Ivanchuk plays a style of chess that is computer-proof. Like, he's not playing machines. So even though his opponent plays a very logical move, closes in the center, I don't know how on earth white is going to activate this bishop, right? He will. b5. This forces the knight to either go back or take the bishop. He takes the bishop. And now we begin the extraction process. This bishop is going to participate in the game. The computer really likes the position for black. It thinks that after queen g5, black has some serious attacking chances. But queen g5 doesn't have a very obvious threat. And white has some very easy kind of ideas to sort of thwart the attack. In the game, black went here, and Ivanchuk immediately played d5. And suddenly this bishop is just a monster. That bishop will stand in the corner, and this is the meme. Like, there is the meme right now, all over Instagram and YouTube Shorts, like the bishop from, Q46 from another dimension flies into the board and stops checkmate. That's the bishop. The knight goes to a5 to protect the pawn from being taken, and Ivanchuk takes the file. And this game is so fascinating because even though he straight up down a pawn, and he can't even win another pawn back, because if you take this, you get your bishop into your queen, you resign. Just purely based on activity, Ivanchuk now begins putting some nasty pressure on his opponent. And just using the long diagonals, he defends against mate. He doesn't get mated. And then he begins infiltrating, and black has a lot of weaknesses. Like, these pawns are nice, but they're nice when they're actually doing something. And now white has sort of poked holes around them. And before you know it, black is making mistakes. Here comes the doubling on the b file. Rook a7. Bishop d4. The bishop has been activated completely. All of black's pieces are standing around, but they're not actually doing anything. And it's just amazing how Ivanchuk manages to do this. Both guys have hanging rooks. Ivanchuk infiltrates on the 8th rank. And now begins an opposite side attack. h4, rook b8, rook. Like, how does he just control the entire board like this? Bishop back to f1. We're going to get a trade of rooks, but black has no defense to the white attack. And now Ivanchuk has picked off a pawn. So not only is his position good, he's also got the pawn back. Black is still weak everywhere. And in the long run, this pawn is going to probably become a queen. So queen f5, queen a8. You have an infiltration threat, and you can't even stop it. And Ivanchuk gets in and straight up just wins the game. Like, he just breaks into black's position, and black is toast. He can't do anything. Queen g7 is threatened, and rook h6 is mate. And I'm not sure what else he could have done, frankly. Like, queen f5 was obviously a mistake. Here was maybe the final moment. He needed to play f6 to try to block this bishop. It wouldn't have really helped, to be honest. Like, white would have just been a pawn up with a passed outside a pawn. It's a miserable position. And after Ivanchuk infiltrated, he picked up the pawn on d6 with a check, and he won the game. And this bishop, I mean, look at This is bishop on a1, and just 2 moves later, just opened up the bishop. Black absolutely demolished. Demolished. That's no disrespect. I mean, it's probably a privilege to be demolished by a legend like Ivanchuk. Here's another game. That game he played c4. In this game, Ivanchuk plays e4. Now, again, this game was Evisceration. The last game might have looked like Evisceration too. These are all strong international masters from all over the world. The last one was German. This one is Spanish. These players are trying to become grandmasters as well. And Ivanchuk is just like the old man at the basketball court who is too strong for you to handle in the post and shoots threes like it's nobody's business. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, and dude is running with like ice packs on his legs. So in this game, we have a sideline variation of the French defense. By the way, Ivanchuk, for the record, literally thinks 3 minutes on this move and then spends 15 minutes playing the move a3. Bishop d7 is this weird French system where black trades on d4 and tries to trade off the light-scored bishop. It's a very provocative system because it violates the principles of development. You're not really developing the knights before the bishops. You're making multiple moves with the same piece in the opening, but you can sort of pull it off. Well, watch what Ivanchuk does here. He gets to this position. Everything looks normal. The only benefit of black's position is white can't castle easily. And I just absolutely love the next move that he plays. Like, you really have to be an intermediate player to appreciate this. If you're watching this as a beginner, you can still appreciate this. Ivanchuk plays the move b4. This move is given a question mark on low game review analysis depth because it straight up blunders a pawn. b4 can literally be taken. Like, that's why this system even works for black. And Ivanchuk's like, okay, young man, you want to show me how good you are? Take the pawn. If takes, Ivanchuk was going to take, give up his rook, and play knight b5, trying to put the knight on d6. And after knight to e7, knight d6 check would come in, king d7, and Ivanchuk wouldn't even take one of these pawns, he would just castle. And the point of this would be to have sacrificed a rook for a minor piece, in this case a bishop, but end up with a dominant knight outpost in the opponent's side of the board and a very weak king. A king that just has to stand in the center while you pillage the position around him. Ivanchuk played in a way that I have never seen before. Maybe b4 is the most, it's one of the moves that's possible in this position. Most people from this position play knight e2 and try to enable castling. b4 is crazy. And it's actually one of the reasons that black does not take this pawn in practice. And, because of that, Ivanchuk just gets a very pleasant game. And now white has a space advantage. White is also better on the dark squares. So he knows that he's going to have to trade off the dark squared bishop of black and try to establish a blockade on the dark squares. Positional chess, right? I mean, this guy has beaten players like Kasparov, who is, no disrespect, Angel Espinosa Aranda. The guy beat world champions in his heyday. Knight to a4, rook c1, and h4. This is a very common way to attack a knight on the g6 or b6 square, is to use your flank pawn, just like this, especially when you haven't castled. Black plays h5. White cannot not play h5, but knight on g5 and bishop on g5 are enabled. So this move comes with pros and cons. I said the motto of this game is Evisceration. The next game is, creativity and imagination. Black repositions the knight on f5. Overall, black's position looks fine. But black's position is a Caro Kann from, the Alimentación under your apartment building. Spent 10 days in Spain, so I'm basically Spanish now. This is not a good position for black at all. In the Caro Kann, your pawn structure looks better. You have more space. You're getting severely restricted here. And I just love this next phase of the game because if I was playing white here, I would not be able to do this against the player of Espinosa's strength. He plays bishop b4. He knows that that is the major important piece of black's position. So after this, he trades it off and he continues to make progress. Now, Ivanchuk is probably going to build up over here, right? That's where he's stronger. You have to play on the side of the board where you have some sort of advantage. Now watch this, okay? Watch this. Rook b8, knight g5. He's still keeping an eye on this. And by the way, just as a bonus, this is checkmate. Black goes knight c5. Rook c5, because he wants to bring the second rook and infiltrate down the c file. Black plays knight f5. He plays rook c1. Everything easy. Everything is easy. Wait a minute. Is that easy? He's just straight up hanging a pawn. Yeah, that's on purpose. Because after this move, you go here and the knight has to go back. Now black is up a pawn. But his position is really bad. Why? Rook c7. Black doesn't have a move. All of Black's heavy material is stuck on the last rank. So he plays d4 because he wants to activate the queen on the d5 square. Ivanchuk plays f3, which is a mistake according to the computer, but very logical idea is to play g4. Black plays queen d5, rook c5. The queen goes for counterplay. I mean, Black played a very logical move. He played d4, queen d5, queen a2. He tried to get active. His best bet was actually to just like sit still and let the attack come in. He tried to create counterplay, and I mean, this is domination. This is evisceration. That's mate. Can't move the knight. The rooks don't only, they don't just attack, they also protect. Protect, attack, and as they say on this channel, most importantly, they eat snack. Pawn takes f6, pawn takes f5, and Ivanchuk opens one door and closes another, and that another is his opponent's chance of getting back into this game. Pawn to f6, opening up the bazooka of the queen. Yeah, Black's rooks never made it off the back rank, and the queen got 2 honorary moves. Black basically, tell me how in the beginning setup of a chess game, you have the queen and the 2 rooks, and Ivanchuk in this game had the opponent's queen move around, bounce all the way back to the home square, just waste of time in the opening, never move again, by the way. Then Black castled, so that rook just got 1 ceremonial move. This is the only move made by that rook, and he just won the game. His opponent never got anything. He did not get going at all. Very good player. Now, this next game was incredible. When I saw this game, I couldn't believe my eyes. I really couldn't believe my eyes. There was one dramatic moment in this game, later in the game, which was, time trouble, and it was the only thing that prevented this maybe being one of the best games I've seen so far in 2025. So this is the last round of a tournament, okay? This is the last round of the Minorca Open. This is Ivanchuk's 28th game in 26 days or something. Like I said, he played, no, even less. What am I talking about? In 16 days. He played 28 games of chess in 16 days. Something completely ridiculous. Maybe 20 days. But he played April 9th to 15th, April 16th to 21st, and April 22nd to 27th. This is April 27th. So April 9th. So yeah, this is his 18th day of chess, and he's played 28 games of chess. It's just, dude, 60. Almost. Regardless of whether you're a legend or not, that takes unbelievable brain power. Plus the travel. He has no time between tournaments. This is the last round. He's playing a young, hungry young man from India who's 25-70. And Ivanchuk, he plays for a win. He already won the tournament. I think he already won the tournament when this game was played, which is even crazier. And he plays for a Sicilian. He plays a con-Sicilian, which is one of the most combative Sicilians. You played, and by the way, the game that I showed you that he played with white, he played a very similar thing. He played with this queen here, right? So it's kind of funny. He plays the systems with both colors. White plays bishop d3, bishop c5, knight b3. All of this has been seen before. Queen g4. And now, a move that I have never seen. Never seen this move. This is the only move I've ever seen in this position. g6. Ivanchuk plays here. White plays bishop f4, which is the best move, and basically disregards the attack on the c3 square, gives it up, and this is how badly Ivanchuk wants to win this game. He is willing to risk an opening disadvantage. I'm sure he knows the move is not bishop f6. I don't know if he was interviewed about this game, but he knows the move is not bishop f6, but now his opponent has to play on his own. The best move here is to bring the bishop back. Bring the bishop back and start a pawn attack. But white is on his own. He doesn't know that. He plays king f1. It's not the best move. It's not the best move because, first of all, you don't get to castle. So your king is not going to castle, means you're going to have to spend more time moving the king. Second of all, the bishop doesn't belong here. The bishop belonged on that square, and then, it worked better that way because you would start a pawn attack onto your opponent. But white has a very clear idea. He wants to put the bishop on d6. It's a very natural idea. Black has a bunch of pawns on light squares. Not just a bunch. He has 6 out of 7. So you want to control the dark squares because he has all the pawns on the light squares. Ivanchuk now plays h5. This is so wild. Like, to play chess like this at the highest level, when you don't even have to. He could have made a draw. I don't think Pranesh would have taken a draw, but he could have played uber solidly in this game. But he's playing for a win. He's not developing any pieces. All his pieces are on the back rank, but Ivanchuk likes to solve problems. That's how he likes to play chess. So queen g5. Queen f6. If we trade the queens and I maintain a pawn advantage, of course I'm going to win the game. But this is not where the game even gets creative. What you are about to witness is unbelievable. Queen c5, restricting the diagonal, right? Maybe white wants to continue with some attack. Now Ivanchuk plays the best move, which is e5. Understanding the position better than his opponent, not allowing white to connect the pawns, freeing up this attack over here, and maybe even setting up this pawn to b6 move, deflecting the defense of the bishop. Many ideas here. White plays knight d2. He's trying to play knight c4. He's trying to play knight b6. Black's dark squares are in dire straits. We have b6 played. Queen has to move. And now rook h6. Look, the way Ivanchuk coordinated his pieces in this game was unbelievable. From the moment he played the move h5, he knew that he would be removing this bishop with a rook and the move e5. I don't know how he knew that, man. This dude is a genius. Like, and now the bishop has to go. Wait, but what about the move knight c4? This move is a problem. Because if white moves the bishop, the knight comes in, that's a totally different story. And on top of that, knight b6 is coming, which is going to attack the rook and attack the bishop. Ivanchuk had the whole thing worked out. He mapped out the entire thing. And this is why I say this game is peak Ivanchuk. He plays b5, he invites the knight in, and he doesn't even do anything about the rook. He sacrifices the rook. He just gives the rook away. And he understands black is not worse, and in reality, from a practical standpoint, black is better in this position. How many of us would even do that? Most people who are going to give up a knight here are going to trap it. Not Ivanchuk. This is, right? Knight b6, knight c7. None of this works. So, what do? Knight b4. Why is this position better for black? White's king is in the center. And furthermore, having a rook for a knight is not a huge advantage because these are endgame pieces. They're not really going to be useful until the endgame phase. And even in the endgame, the knights could be just as effective, and so can the pawns. Now, like I said, this was turning out to be one of the best played games of 2025 for me. Just watch. So he targets the bishop. White gives the check and opts to give away a pawn to try to trade down material. Why? Why did he do that? Why couldn't he just play like king e2? Well, after bishop b7, the knight is really stuck. The knight is stuck. So he decides, okay, I'm just going to do it on my own terms. I'm going to do it like this. Ivanchuk doesn't even take the knight. He takes the bishop because he understands that in the long run, his bishop will be more useful than taking white's knight and winning a pawn. So pawn takes d3, bishop b7. And now if white were to move the knight, you would lose this pawn. And black would have 2 extra pawns. And then the material count is, you know, a bishop and 2 pawns for a rook, which is 5-5. And based on position, it's actually better for black. So watch this. a4, takes, and now not takes, b4. Rook and knight versus 2 rooks. Simple. Of course the rooks are better, right? Not if one side has a protected pawn that is 3 squares from queening, always problematic. Not when you have massive pawn weaknesses, and not when one of your pieces is a knight that could potentially, you know, go to some really, really nasty squares in the position to do damage. This was shaping up to be one of the most genius games I've ever seen. He completely shut down his opponent, you know, isolated him on the back rank, and got a totally dominant position in endgame. Rook and knight. Knight and 2 pawns for a rook. White plays rook c5. And Ivanchuk is just running circles around the young man and talk about, I can't believe, rooks, he's trading the rooks. He's smart enough to realize that the pawn is just going to promote. It can't be stopped. There's no way to stop that pawn from a defensive standpoint, so he doesn't even care. He's like, trade with me. because I'm going to defend my pawn. I'm going to bring my king up the board. You just lose. There is no way to defend the position. This was unbelievable. I was watching this game in real time. I was like, this man is on another level. He's been on another level. Look at it. The knight and the pawns just dominate the rook. This is sensational. The king comes up, king d6, king c4, and Ivanchuk plays f5, and it's simple now. You just need to do it like this. But, like I said, it was shaping up to be the best game, but there was one moment here that was kind of crazy, and it happened in low time. And I really wish this moment didn't happen, because this would have just been a completely flawless display. Knight takes a4 here, just winning for black. But knight d5 also good, which is the move that he played in the game. White is desperately looking for counterplay. You have to take the pawn on a4 probably, but he doesn't. And he suddenly activates his position. This was really nicely done from Pranesh. He got his rook out, and now the position is equal. But Ivanchuk hunts down the king in the center, the pawn in the center, and yeah, here White is winning. Suddenly, White is winning the game. Like, Ivanchuk could have taken on a4. Instead, you know, he has the pawn avalanche. And now pawn to g5, pawn to c4 check. And that's the wrong move. Apparently here, you had to calculate that king b2 is the critical move, not king c2. King b2 is winning. King a2 is a draw, apparently. This is losing, which is crazy. The point is maybe that after king b2, king d4, there is rook f8, and the king runs to the critical b1 square and can't get hit with certain pawn moves. But because you went to c2, now when you do this, this is the major difference, is that this move comes with a tempo, whereas in the other situation, it would have not come with a tempo. And now Ivanchuk gets everybody in. Pawn is promoting, knight is going to b4, not allowing the king to get closer. Knight seals the passage. King can't go to a2. And Ivanchuk won. And Ivanchuk went undefeated in the entire month of April, nearly 30 games, and he gained 40 rating points, and he won every tournament he played. And the dude is 56 years young. When you talk about one of the best players in the world that was never the world champion, Ivanchuk has to be in that conversation. It's crazy. Absolutely nuts. Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to describe this accomplishment other than legendary. That's all I have for you in this video. I've made a lot of videos about Ivanchuk. Feel free to check them out, like his interview breakdown and others. And yeah, if you're still watching, European Tour starts in 3 days. I'll see you all very soon. And if you haven't gotten a ticket yet, I don't really know what you're waiting for. Get out of here.